which is down there, Daily Waters.
Not much room. Ah, Mr. Whiteface walked out of that bus. Yeah, I thought you had it.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? He's putting up our tents. Did you hear that?
Is it all there?
Travelling upstream on the Victoria River, which was first discovered in 1839 by Lieutenant Lord Stokes, whilst he was surveying the northern coast, looking for a suitable port for Darwin. But one moonlit night, he, Wickham, Keyes and Fitzmaurice were out in a longboat looking for fresh water, when they saw the moonlight shine on a tidal rift, and they knew they'd discovered the mouth of a large river. And they explored her right up to the head of this valley, and being such a majestic river, named it after the then young Queen of England, Victoria. She's about 500 miles long, and the queen of all rivers in the territory. And she rises in the spinifax plains of the great sandy desert south of Wave Hill Station, in the unassuming name of River's End. And this afternoon, it is my pleasure to show you a small but beautiful part of Victoria. In ahead of us here is called Gregory Creek. Well, back in 1855, Augustus Charles Gregory was commissioned by the government to explore the source of the Victoria River. There are great types of kite that frequent this area, easily distinguished by the shapes of their tails. The black kite has a forky tail, the square tail kite is straight across, and the whistling kite is slightly lighter in colour but with a round tail. The tip has been compared with Milford Sound and the Gordon in Tasmania, which are renowned for their reflections, but none are as colourful as Victoria, and they will get better. On the right-hand side, this taller dark green leaf tree you see is the Leichhardt pine. They would have said, Leichhardt pine. They would have said, you need it for a taste like shit. There's nice yellow wood though, the drill's been cut and amazing. It's also white and resistant. And the Aborigines used the large of those trees to fashion their canoes. There are many beautiful places in this country of ours, but this little red valley, a real gem, must rank amongst the most beautiful. Certainly one of the most colourful. Sometimes it makes you wish you could paint them. Why, good, that's the sign of early west. That was Lindsay Crawford. Well, Lindsay, he was a keyboard operator with the Overland Telegraph Line at Daily Waters, one of Todd's men. But he left the keyboard to follow that famous Australian drover Nat Buchanan across from Queensland. With 2,500 head of cattle, 90 bulls, 160 horses, to establish the biggest cattle station in the world. At that time it covered an area of 13,500 square miles, or 9.5 million acres. About the same size as Belgium. The main difference was that Belgium had 8 million people, VRD had 8. But today it is only half that size, 12,500 square kilometres, and was purchased by Peter Sherwin from L.J. Hooker for $12 million.
Looks like a horse.
the old bow-out. The trees here, the only time they'll see is once again with a fire. You have a decent fire and the rain to follow it up. That's the only time they'll really see themselves. And you see on the left the big one there. See the little ones around it. There's a bird on our left. There's a bird on our left and up ahead of us. Little clump of bushes up there. And there's a bowerbird's nest in there. You can see all the shells and that from here. All the little white bits just up there on the left. Good mud down there with the river being tidal. You won't be the first one to go flat down and get a backside full of mud.
Still the Victoria River where we went on yesterday on the boat. It's becoming tidal now, it's coming out closer towards the sea.
Down from there, we'll cover the border of WA and Northern Territory. Tell it, it's a good old sharp spit of eggs. Now when they man-made lake, oasis in the desert. Yep, straight out. Straight out. What's the name of my place? Does it look? In the corner. You have the intake pipe on the left-hand side, and down on the right, you can see the water coming out the bottom. There's some very brainy people down there, come out of that camper van, the best crocodile, standing on the edge of the water. Real intelligence. No actually goes swimming. That is full of crocodiles down there. Yeah, with a smaller block and you find us set up in the grass area for lunch. That's where they take moisture tests, just to keep an eye on the wall and measurements so the wall hasn't been moving.
David taking bricklade.
I'd just like to take this opportunity to introduce you to Sue, one of the senior Triangle girls, Amy's tour. And this morning we're going to spend some time together on this waterway, which bears the name officially of Lake Kununurra. Now, the name Kununurra bears a little question at times. Different people say, what does it mean? Where did the word Kununurra come from? It's quite an interesting story. And over this morning's cruise, what we'll do is we'll try and evolve a picture for you of the Kimberley region here and the river systems, why the river systems have been created, why the lakes have been created, and what we propose as a nation to do with the land. There where they have a cottage industry, where the zebra rock, which is called the 600 million year mystery, is manufactured, is cut from the raw rock, which they have the mining rights to, and they mine it on the Carboid Range, which is a spur of range coming out from Argyle, and they bring it back to this farm and cut it into raw stages of rock and then manufacture it into different stages of artifacts and jewelry, etc., which is quite an interesting little journey. And then we return home and you'll have some times for questions, etc. And questions, etc. And bear in mind, 20 years ago it didn't exist. It wasn't here because there was no water in the constant manner. And also there were no reed beds, no grass and no trees. Now you might say, how can they have all grown so quickly? Well, I suppose you're feeling hot, are you? Well, there's a rude saying in this country, it's wet or bloody hot or bloody wet. Now this is like a glass house. Now the heat is there, the moisture's there, and the depth of the soil is there. And it's just like a jungle, just grows immediately, instantly. This bloke, for example, just to give you an idea of how she protects the food chain of her species. This particular bird is called the, what would you call him? Darter cormorant? Yeah. No, it's actually the true darter bird. Now he's a very special bird, but he can easily be mistaken for a cormorant or something like that, or a shag, because people fit him into the pattern, and it doesn't really matter much, but now this is how what we refer to as boarding houses of the wetlands. Now in other words, just imagine yourself having an apartment or a unit or somewhere in the city, and that's your home. Well, that's how the animals treat these dead trees. So they're tremendous. See the little one's neck, see the little mouth underneath there? And that's when they're tremendously prone to the predator. She's just got to watch. You see that fishing birds, etc. They camp on those trees, but they won't camp on the thick logs. They always camp on the very thin ones. Environment, very thin ones. Environment. That's another wetland in there on the left. It goes into quite a large lagoon. And this is the forerunner, as the management people say, of the jungle, which will emerge here in probably another 50 years' time or something because of that hothouse environment. And then that is the forerunner to a rainforest, which may emerge in, say, another 200 years or 100 years' time or something. Who knows?
No, she said something else. She's in the grass, look.
3 days old, drunk and munging guys decided to shoot the mum and sell it for $1,000. So we got her very injured.
Did you really?
She's
Oh, look at my finger.
And no trouble now with her.
It grows on a stem. They have the flower, then a little tiny stem, and that's the nut. When the nut's matured, the stem of the nut fills out, and that's what's called a cashew apple. And the cashew trees are growing down there in a row if anybody wants to have a look. The nuts are very poisonous, so they send them overseas to be processed. Shortly, I guess they'll have their own processing plant here in Australia or up here. The apple you can eat.
How many nuts are there?
No, only one nut. That's one nut. Now that's why they are expensive. That's in the world. It's just wet and dry sandpaper. And it was found a few years before they built Lake Argyle. When they built the dam, the majority of the rock was down the lower parts of the valley. So of course most of the rock was lost when the dam was flooded. We've got a small rocky outcrop in Lake Argyle, and it's just a mountain top that's formed an island. It's a sedimentary rock, and they put it down to being a 600 million year old mystery. And it's just over the many millions of years, the different soil silting through with the leaching of an iron oxide that's created some of the many patterns in the rock. To polish it, you can rub it down with just wet and dry sandpaper, starting off with a coarse and finishing it off with a fine wet and dry of 600. Wash it well, put it out to dry, and you can either leave it natural or you can give it a coat of Dulux Clear Gloss, which just gives it a shine. It makes lovely jewellery, earrings, bookends, talking pieces, whatever you want to do with it. And literally, all you have to do is just rub it down, and it comes up really nice.
The Indians say that the blackbird was flying too close to the sun, and the bright burning flames changed his wings and his name to remind him how far he had